Hi, welcome to tip 10. So this is the last tip in the series of tips. So I've done my top 10 tips for getting pregnant, especially if you are struggling with infertility like myself and my husband did. So if you haven't watched tips 1 to 9, go and watch them, because there is a reason I do them a certain way. And the ones that I do last are ones that it generally takes longer to implement the things, and it's something that I need to leave with you. So the first ones that we tend to do sort of like diet and exercise, and they're things that I can say to you and you can make a change quite quickly with them. And once you've sort of made that change, you know what you need to do, you can start to see a result. So the ones that I've done the last couple of days, such as sleep, stress, relationships, they're things that generally take longer to master, which is why we do them at the end. So if you haven't watched tips 1 to 9, go over and watch those. If you are liking these, then please feel free to like, subscribe. After the top 10 tips, though, I'll be going more into my story and some of the things that have happened to me, affected me, and hopefully that encourages more people to speak out about a subject that is always very much labelled taboo, and I don't want it to be anymore. So my last tip is mindset, and like I'd said with the, when we spoke about stress, it can be really easy to think, oh, okay, well, you're talking to me about having a positive mindset, but I'm so stressed, I'm not sleeping, I've got no energy, I've always got these appointments going round and round, and I've always got something going on, and how can I possibly have a good mindset? So the difference in mindset and when I do what changed for me in my journey and what happened for me to start to see the results I wanted to see, mindset is a huge part of that. So we can be of the mindset that you probably are now and that I was in, of nothing's working, everything's against me, we're just not going to be parents, it's not going to work, I've had a miscarriage before, it'll just happen again, our IVF's failed before, it'll just happen again, what's the point, certainly for us, after the first cycle of IVF we had to pay, so it was like a strain on finances, then that caused a strain on our relationship, on our marriage, home life. It felt like we were working just to pay for that, and then there was the risk of paying thousands of pounds for something that didn't work, and then you'd got to save again for it, and it does just consume your whole life. So mindset is, and I've done it last because I think it's the hardest one to master, and it will take time. It's not something that in a week's time you're going to be like, yeah, I've completely changed my mindset. And I'm really open and honest about that. And I haven't always been of like a positive mind. I haven't always felt that I'm in control. I haven't always been in the position to not understand that everything happens for a reason, but understand that sometimes I don't like something, and maybe I can't understand why something's happened, but I've just got to have the faith that it's meant to be that way, and generally further down the line it makes sense. And one of the things I'm going to talk to you about now, it's not something I talk a lot about, but I want you to have the faith that things do happen for a reason. And I know some people do like that and some people don't, and I speak to a lot of people who say, on my fertility coaching programs, who say, well, we've got our own house, we've got cars, we've got good jobs, we're very stable, we've been together a long time, we're in a stable relationship, a loving relationship, like why wouldn't it be the right time? And I don't always have that answer, and sometimes it is the right time and it's just life unfortunately kicks us down and down and down. But certainly for me, our first IVF that we started was 2013, and we got married on the 18th of September, and it had been approved before we went to Greece to get married, and it meant that we would have sort of done half of it here back in the UK and had to take the rest of the medication with us on holiday. And I was a bit concerned about that, and I sort of said, I don't know whether I'm going to want to do that, and on my wedding day I'm going to have to go and do injections and this, that and the other. So I was more concerned about taking all the medication away and doing sort of half here, half there, you know, insurances, what if anything happened to me. So we made the decision that we weren't going to start until we got back. It just pushed it back 2 weeks. And we were of the mindset that, well, we've waited 5 years now, so we might as well wait a bit longer. And it was the difference of 2 weeks. So what we decided was that we would come back off holiday and off our honeymoon on the Saturday, well, early hours Sunday, and we started the IVF treatment on the Monday. And we started the IVF treatment, and so that was the September. And now when I look back, I didn't even realise at the time that we resented that, because we never got that, like, time, you know, when we first got married to just enjoy each other. It was like, right, okay, we got married, now we've got to go back and start IVF. And we never just had that time to sort of, like, you know, all the stress of paying for your wedding, planning it. Like, I was trying to lose weight for the wedding, do this, do that, like, and we never had that downtime again. We came back and it just cranked up like 10 notches. So, very long story short, we started the IVF on the Monday, and it turned out the day that we were going to find out was the 15th of November, which is coming up. And I'll never forget that day, even though we've got Remy now. But that's a day that still hugely sticks in my head. And we did our test and it didn't work, and we'd failed, and the pregnancy test was negative. And that was the Friday. And all I could think about was why? Why? We'd got good jobs, we'd got a good life, we'd been together a long time, we'd just got married. Why wasn't it working? Why wasn't something working? What had we done wrong? It was, in my eyes and the way I felt that day, it was the end of my life. It was, if I can't even get pregnant when everyone's put there what needs to be there, exactly how it needs to be, and make it as easy as that, how was I ever going to get pregnant? And we told, obviously, our parents, and extremely upset. And I spent a lot of time, luckily, with my parents that weekend. And on the Monday, so the IVF failed on the Friday, and on the Monday, my dad passed away very suddenly. He wasn't ill, wasn't expected, was 52 years old, very fit, went out and never came home. And now I can understand, and it doesn't make the IVF not working any less painful, because I still wish it had worked, because just for that weekend my dad would have got to know that I was pregnant, that it had worked finally. But he didn't, and he never got to know that. But one of the things that I really think about a lot is that if the IVF had worked, and it had worked that Friday, we'd have been over the moon, of course. My dad would have got to know, which was, you know, it's one of the only things in life I wish I could change. But reality of the matter is, I was that stressed, I was that shocked, I was that distraught, you know, that would that pregnancy have gone full term? Would I have always linked that pregnancy with my dad dying? So, as much as at the time I couldn't fathom out why, and I still would have loved that pregnancy to work, and I know my dad would have, now when I look back, I can start to see about things being aligned and of my mindset, because would my mind have been like, well, yeah, okay, that was great, but then that's, you know, when the baby was born was when my dad dropped down dead. And would I have had that link in my head all the time, whereas we'd tried for all these years, I didn't want anything to tarnish that link. And you hear so many stories, and I know so many stories of people who have gone for IVF treatment. One of them is a very good friend of mine, gone for IVF treatment, been approved, they've been trying years. And this particular lady, and a lot of ladies that I know and I've worked with, and go to start their IVF treatment, and then they say, you're pregnant. And the particular lady I'm talking about, it was like 8 years of trying. Couldn't get pregnant, not even a positive test, and then found out it was wrong, or nothing, never been pregnant. And then after 8 years, went to start, literally the day that you get given all of your medication and told, I mean, in the UK, it might be different, but certainly when I was going through it, we had to do the injections obviously in front of people to make sure we were doing it right first. And obviously they show you your measurements and your equipment that you're going to be using, your medication, talk to you about it. And they were at that appointment and they said, you're pregnant. And this is quite a common thing, and it has a flip side, because it's a lovely story to hear and I hear it a lot. But it's also one of those stories that when you're going through it, people go, oh, well, you never know, because so-and-so, they were going to start IVF and then they found out they were pregnant. And you're like, oh, great, yeah, unless that happens to me, I'm not really bothered, sort of thing. So people used to say that to me, oh, bet you when you go and start the IVF, you'll find out you're pregnant. Didn't. That never happened to me. But it happens a lot. And the reason for that is mindset. You've concentrated on something else. You've resonated with yourself and accepted that if you're going to get pregnant, it's going to be through IVF. So your mindset has completely changed. You've accepted something, you're waiting for that, you're waiting for a date in the future or an appointment. So your mindset has completely shifted, which has caused you to relax more. You've accepted something else, you're not getting stressed now for probably the first time in 8 years about it, because you know what the next step's going to be. So it happens a lot, and it's a lot more common than you think. But the whole thing with mindset is, and this is probably my number one frustration, and I talk to people a lot, is it has to be worked on. So there is so much that you can do. And with me, if you follow me over on Facebook and Instagram, you'll know that it's something I talk really openly about. The mindset of just doing something to help yourself. With me, I really struggled with control and the fact that I had no control, or I felt like I had no control. So I did fertility acupuncture, I did hypnotherapy, I did Reiki, I did fertility massage. I tried everything until I worked out what worked for me. And it was the acupuncture and hypnotherapy for me that really helped me. The hypnotherapy really brought me down and brought me to a much calmer place. And the acupuncture, weirdly, I found so relaxing. And people say, oh, how is it relaxing when people are sticking needles in you? But I carried on with that right the way through my pregnancy. So it helped my mindset because I felt like I was doing something. It helped relax me, which improved my mindset and got me to a better place. And if you've got two mindsets and you're really stressed and worked up about something this big is going to become this big. So whilst you're going through fertility and infertility, fertility treatment, miscarriage, whatever it is that you're going through, those little things in everyday life, like, I don't know, dropping a milk carton on the floor, or dropping an egg on the floor, or I don't know, someone pulling out in front of you that you would normally be like, ugh, they just make you go, and you flip your lid. And believe me, I've done it. Clomid made me like, woo. So I totally understand it, but if you can get yourself and pull yourself into a good mindset. Now, I'm not going to, like I said about the stress and relaxation, if you Google anything that says, how can I get myself a good mindset, millions of things will come up. So I'm not going to tell you on how to do it, because it's a very personal thing, mindset. And I could talk about this all day. So if you don't know about the law of attraction, think about the law of attraction, because you've got to tell yourself what is happening, what you want in life, what you want the universe to bring you, and be really specific. So don't be afraid to ask the universe for what we want. So when I do the fertility hypnotherapy, I do hypnotherapy for endometriosis, I do hypnotherapy for IVF, for pregnancy, for failed pregnancies, for miscarriage, for embryo transfers, for really specific things, for feminism, for increasing libido and your relationship and your intimacy with your partner, and the thoughts and things that you have about yourself, body acceptance, fertility, visualization, loads of things. And it's telling yourself the right things, and our brain believes what we tell us. So if you've watched my previous things, you'll know that I was telling myself I was a failure, that Mark was going to leave me. Why would he be with me when he could go and be with somebody else who could give him a baby? Why couldn't my body just do what everyone else's could do? Even when I got pregnant, I had a very traumatic birth and couldn't get my baby out, so I had an emergency cesarean, which again triggered the "you're a failure. Why can't you do what everyone else is doing? What everyone else is doing? You can't even do that right." And I was telling myself this stuff all the time. So I was telling myself that, so it only took someone else to say one bad thing about me and I'd completely written myself off. I didn't have one good word to say about myself, and if someone told me something, I'd just flip the remark away. I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't think that they were being genuine. So what you tell yourself matters. Now, I'm not going to say that if you're not into it and you're not into the law of attraction and you're not into building a positive mindset, to go out tomorrow and start completely changing, because the whole way through this you'll know that I'll talk about small manageable tips. So it's about finding what you associate with. So some people it's books. If you haven't read this book, it's really good. It's called The Secret by Rhonda Bryan, and it's all about the law of attraction, and it really helps to change the mindset. If you haven't tried podcasts, YouTube videos, obviously like this, hypnotherapy, whatever it is that you think that you deal best with. So if it's talking to someone one-to-one, if it's watching something, listening to something, whatever, reading, whatever it may be that you tend to connect better with, it slowly will start to change the mindset. Now, when I do hypnotherapy, a lot of the time, people like it because they're lying down. I do it over the internet, so they don't have to come to me and feel awkward in front of me. I do it with people all over the world. They switch the camera off, I switch my camera off. They can just hear me talking, and 90% of people fall asleep when I'm doing it. And I will always say, like when I start a hypnotherapy session, I'll explain how it works, that it's fine if you do that. It's also fine if your mind wanders off and you think about what you're going to cook that evening for dinner and, oh, I need to do that ironing that's sitting in the basket or whatever, because it's not that part of the brain that we're looking at, it's the subconscious. And it's the subconscious part of the brain that controls us. It controls like pretty much everything we do in life. Everything that we think about ourselves, everything we feel about ourselves, and how we deal with that subconscious part of the mind can change our life. So I'm not going to tell you what to do on it. I'm just going to tell you that make some small changes with your mindset, even if it's just the most basic thing I can recommend is writing something down. And I do this with clients who've never done anything like this. So things like, I am going to get pregnant, I'm going to stay pregnant, I am going to be a fantastic mother, this is not my fault, fertility is not my identity. Anything that you feel that is in your head, and be true, because we know what's swirling around in there, it's just that sometimes we don't like to acknowledge it. Write it down. So just start small steps. Read some books, listen to some podcasts, have a look at some hypnotherapy. By all means, contact me if hypnotherapy is something you're interested in, or there's lots of people out there. So really start to think about the relationship you have with yourself and what you're telling yourself. And the reason I've left that tip till the end is because it's the one that takes the longest to implement. It took me years to change my mindset, and I mean really change it. I don't mean like wake up the next day and be like, yes, I'm great, I'm going to get pregnant. I mean to really believe what I'm telling myself. So it's a hard one to implement, but don't give up on it, because it is worth it. And it's worth it all the way along the line. So when you're pregnant, when you give birth, when you've got your child, if you can stay in a positive mindset, the difference in your life will be amazing. So thank you so much for watching tips 1 through to 10. Next videos will be on myself, on my life, where I've come from, my journey. They'll be a little bit more informal now because the top 10 tips were, you know, there was a lot of information behind them. So you'll see a little bit more about my family, my daughter. So if there's anything that you want to see or that you want to know about, then just pop me a comment and subscribe, and I will see you for my next video.